Hi everyone, it's Robin and welcome back. Today I am once again answering your questions. I have a few questions here this week, so let's go ahead and jump right in. Joyce Smart is our first person and she says, I have bins for all the holiday decorations, but I need a way not to make it look like clutter. Can you help? Do you put things away and then change it up? I have a hard time with that if I'm not cleaning up and removing things because it's a new holiday. Storing items that you're not using is always a tricky thing. I know I sort of struggle with that myself. I know I've gone over this before, but I'll just quickly run through how I do things. For all of my dishware, silverware, linens, that sort of thing, I keep them in the two hutches that I have. Everything else gets stored down in my laundry room, which is a laundry room slash furnace room. It's super duper tiny. I don't have a lot of space, but I have put shelves wherever I can. And then on those shelves, I have things sorted out into different themes. Like I have a 4th of July box. I have a Easter box, that sort of thing. So I try to break it up as much as possible so that if there's specific items for a specific holiday, they all go together. Items that are used throughout the year, like say candle holders, lanterns, certain like trays, that sort of thing, that is the hardest thing for me to figure out how to store, because I never know if I want to use it again, so I kind of like to have them out where I can see them. And for that, I've got like a set of open shelves that I put a lot of that sort of stuff on, that I can use it for multiple different holidays or seasons. That way I can see what I have very easily. And yes, it does look cluttered. I don't really know of a way not to make it look cluttered, but because it's in my laundry room, I really don't mind it that it's cluttered. It's not a room that everybody sees. It's just my room that I go into. I don't even know if the rest of the family goes in there very often. But that is kind of my safe space that I use for like a staging area sort of thing. And I have a table in there also that is right now just mounded with things that need to get put away into certain boxes. But yeah, so that's kind of sort of how I sort things and put things away, so that I know where everything is. As for whether or not I put things away before I start decorating for the next holiday, absolutely. When I go to start decorating for a new season, I grab a laundry basket and I put as much stuff in it that I can. I bring it down to the laundry room, I put it where it needs to go, and then I come back up and repeat the process until everything is gone from the previous holiday. And that is how, and then then I can dust everything, clean everything, all the surfaces that I'm going to be redecorating, and I feel like it makes it a lot easier to decorate that way. So that is kind of my process for decorating. I definitely take everything down to bare bones and start anew when it comes to a holiday. Now, if there are items that I know I'm going to use, like say an ironstone pitcher that I'll probably reuse, that won't get put away necessarily, but I'll put it off to the side with items that I may use again. If when I'm done decorating, those items haven't been used, then I'll put them away. Hopefully that helps. So, the next question is, when did the Goodwill type shopping bug bite you? This I think I learned from my parents. They were very big garage salers. I remember when I was little, we would go to garage sales all the time, and I think that's probably when my love of, secondhand things started. But I really didn't start going to, secondhand stores and like Goodwill on a regular basis until probably about 5 years ago. That's really when I started. When we moved to this house and when the kids were not in school, I would garage sale, but I never ever went to the thrift stores because I was not going to bring my kids with me into there. But once the kids started going to school and then I was done watching my sister's kids, that's kind of when the bug hit big time. I would start going to the thrift store on a certain day of the week. It was the day that they had like 25% off. And I got on a pretty good schedule of going like every single week. And that is when I think it happened. So I would say 5 to 6 years ago, that's when I really started like going to the thrift stores on a regular basis. Alright, moving on to the next question is from Tomahawk Native 2. And she says, I would love to know what item or piece of decor you'd love to own that you don't already have. That is a good question. There are many things that I have my eye on, but just like most people, I think. Because you see things and you're like, oh, that would be really cool. But I have to say there is one thing that does stand out, and that is a plate rack. I know it's kind of silly, but I saw a plate rack in a magazine, I don't know how long ago, years and years ago, and I have been obsessing over it ever since. So I think probably about a year ago, I finally realized that I had the perfect spot for it, and it is the wall in my dining room behind my dining room table. There's this really big wall, and I have struggled with that wall for years and years because it is so big. I never know what to do with it, and I never really like what I put up there. So I have decided that that room could use that plate rack so that I can display all those beautiful chippy plates and platters that I'm always obsessing over at the thrift stores. So that is the one thing that I would really, really like to do. I have had plans, I've drew up plans to make myself one probably 6 months ago, and every month I'm like, I'm going to make that plate rack, I'm going to make that plate rack, and I still haven't done it. So hopefully next month will be the month that it gets done. I'm not sure if it will, but that would be awesome because I think it would look really, really cool. It's all in my head, and I think it looks really neat. But hopefully it translates well into something substantial that I can hang on the wall and that I will love. So that is the one thing that I would absolutely love to have, is a plate rack. Alright, so the next question is from Gwen Van, and she asks, what color of white or brands of chalk paint or regular paint do you use? I can't find the right off-white color either. It's either too white or too yellowish. Help. Oh, paint colors are tricky. Paint colors are really tricky, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to help with this question because I haven't painted anything in a really long time, like my walls and things, and I know that the paint color that I have, they no longer have. Most of the walls in my house have been painted with paint that I've picked up at Menards, and they have a Pittsburgh paint there that I loved. It was called Ultra. It was Ultra by Pittsburgh Paint, and it was the best paint I'd ever worked with. I absolutely loved it. And then probably about 3 years ago, they changed it up and added like a primer to it, and it totally changed the paint, and now I don't like it. And I haven't found one that I like better. However, my sister says that has been doing some painting in her house, and she had the same problem because she used the Ultra paint. Also, it was awesome paint, and then they changed it, and she's like, what is wrong with this paint? It's terrible now. And so then she's been on the hunt for paint also. So she actually gets her paint at Ace Hardware, and I believe the brand that she gets is Valspar, and she has been very, very happy with that paint. It is also a paint with a primer in it. I think most paints are. I know Behr at Home Depot has a primer in it also now. I think it's just supposed to like cover better or something. I don't know. But anyways, that is a brand that you can look at. I know a lot of people swear by Sherwin-Williams. For me personally, I can't get past the amount of money it costs for a gallon of paint from Sherwin-Williams. But I do know that if you go into Sherwin-Williams and you get their paint swatches and you find that you one that you like, you can take it somewhere else and get it color matched to whatever paint that you like. So that's just a little something that you can do if you're really obsessed with a certain color from there and you don't want to pay the price I'm sure I'm willing to pay. But anyways, when it comes to picking out a color of white, it is very, very tricky. And it's all about personal preference. All of my trim work in my house is in a bright white glossy finish, which I love very much. All of my walls, mostly like the walls in here, is what's called a cottage white, and it's got a slight yellow tinge to it. But because of my house is so bright, it's not too yellow, if you know what I mean. I have used this color in a different room that doesn't get as much light, and it's much, much more yellow. The only way that I know of to get around or to figure out what paints work for you is just get all those swatches, as many swatches as you possibly can, and you use them in your home in different times of the day, in different lighting, until you can kind of narrow down what you think looks best in your home, considering the amount of light your home gets and all that sort of stuff, because that makes a huge difference. Someone can have one color paint and it will look absolutely gorgeous in their house, but your house is going to be completely different because the lighting is going to be completely different. It's really just going to be trial and error. And nowadays you can get like those little sample bottles. If you are really not knowing if a color is going to work in your room, get one of those little sample bottles and try it on a wall, or try it on a piece of paper that you can put up on the wall, just to see what you think before you spend the money on the actual paint itself. It's well worth it, especially if you're unsure as to the tone of the white that you want or the tone of the color that you want. It's worth your money to go with those little sample packages just to figure it out for sure. Now, if you want some direction into what kind of colors to even start looking at, or to find out what other colors other people are using to maybe as a jumping off spot for yourself, get onto Pinterest and search paint colors. Either I know that I have a whole bunch of things saved on my Pinterest boards about farmhouse paint colors. People will put out different like little swatch boards, and a lot of those I'll save when I find one that I really like. So I mean, that's a good way to get a little bit of an idea, and that is also by like paint brand, so that will kind of give you an idea too. Hopefully this helped. I'm sorry I can't just give you an idea, like names of paints that work for me, because they just probably won't work in your home. You just really kind of have to do the work of finding one that's going to work in your home for you. So sorry about that. Alright, so the very last question is from Mary Calmary, and she is wondering if I have a garden. And yes, I do have a garden. I absolutely love to garden. I have a small garden in my front yard, and then my back garden, I have a very large like border garden that goes along our whole backyard fence. And then I also have a little vegetable garden. Last year I started redoing all of my garden space, trying to revamp it and move it over to a less labor-intensive garden, if that makes sense. So I put in a lot of like hydrangeas and like flowering shrubs, and most of it were shrubs that I put in. I took out most of the flowers. I did keep some of my favorite flowers like phlox and that sort of thing. I have like 3 flowers that I absolutely love, which are, you know, like your garden phlox. I think those are absolutely gorgeous. And then I have moonbeam coreopsis, which I think is amazing. It gets humongous and it just gets covered in these bright yellow flowers. I absolutely love it. So I have like 5 of those in the backyard. And then there's one other plant that I can't remember. It's some sort of grass or whatever. So other than that, I've kind of switched out all the flowers, which used to be more of a cottage garden, and I'm now replacing it with flowering shrubs, mostly hydrangeas, and what is the other one that I like? Potentillas. Everyone says potentillas are overused, but you know what? If you put a few here and there, I think they look very beautiful because they do stay bloomed quite a long time. So anyways, that is what's going on in my backyard. My front yard this year is getting a makeover. I am downsizing quite a bit in the front yard because I just never get to the front yard, and last year I was the terrible person on the block that my yard just looked like terribleness because I never got to the front yard to deal with the garden out there. And it was just overcrowded, overweeded, or overgrown with weeds, and I felt like a horrible person the whole year. So I'm taking that garden out. I'm just going to have a little bit of a border garden that goes along the front of the house and kind of around the side of the house. And I'm going to be taking out my island garden because I just can't keep up with it. Yeah. It's a lot easier to keep up with my garden in the backyard because the dogs want to go outside all the time, and I'll let the dogs out and they'll go running around and being crazy, and then I will work in the garden, and it's nice. But I can't do that in the front yard. So I prefer to work in my garden in the backyard. So I'm taking out the garden in the front yard pretty much, and I'm concentrating more on the backyard gardening. So, and then eventually I think in the front yard I'll just have more like pots and stuff like that. Do like more container gardening up by the front of the house, that sort of thing. And I think it'll work just fine. I probably bit off a lot more than I can chew. I know when the kids were much younger, my garden was much, much bigger, and I had plenty of time to work in it because the kids always want to be outside. So they'd be outside playing in the playhouse or the sandbox or whatever, and I'd be, pulling weeds in the garden, that sort of thing. And it worked out perfectly. But now that the kids are older and they want to go places all the time, I am constantly bringing them and picking them up, and I just don't get out in the garden as much. So hence the need to downsize and make my garden less labor intensive. So yeah. So there will definitely be some gardening videos coming this summer. So I'm pretty much done with my backyard makeover of my garden. I think this year I still need to add a few more plants, and then I will move on to my vegetable garden, which I would like to revamp also because I have raised beds out there, and they have been there for 12 years, and they're just like falling apart. So those need to be replaced, and that's something that I didn't get to last year. So this year that'll be my main focus of the vegetable garden. Don't know that I'll actually get any vegetables planted in there, but I will revamp that area, and I want to make it so that we can put our hammock back in there because I'm sick of moving the hammock around the yard when we have to mow. So, and that I don't do, and once again, I don't do as much vegetable gardening as I used to when the kids were little. But I will have some places for it, and I really like to grow pumpkins for using in the fall. So that is one thing that I like to grow also. I'll have a little bit of space for like cucumbers and tomatoes, which is the main thing that we like to eat from the garden. And then a nice big open area for like a little hangout spot, a place for the hammock and maybe a bench or something like that. So that is my plan for that area. Alright, so that is it for the questions today. Not very many, which is nice and short and sweet video today. So I will be back the first week of April to answer any more of your questions. So if you have any questions, make sure you leave them down in the comments below, and I will answer them the first week of April. Alright, thanks so much for stopping by today, and I will check in with you later. Bye now.